when I did the table read, not to toot my own horn, but I killed. Like, it was like, people were like, holy. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I really wanted to do well because I wasn't doing any. I had done like one voiceover gig before that and stuff. And it's interesting. I'm my own worst critic, but I'll go back. If you watch the very first one, like his voice kind of has gone like it's deeper, and then it's gotten really high, and then sometimes it's a little erratic.
Welcome to the new Bob's Credit series, my favorite episode, where we have a very special guest join us to discuss their absolute favorite episode of Bob's Burgers, and then, using a series of qualifications, we're all going to decide if this episode is in fact a top-tier Bob's Burgers episode. I'm Max.
And I'm Skylar.
And our guest today is someone you know from every single funny movie and TV show ever made. Seriously, check out his IMDb. If you've laughed watching it, he's been in it, including a little show you might have heard of called Bob's Burgers, where he is the voice of fan favorite Regular-Sized Rudy. It's Brian Huskey. Brian, you are the very first of the Bob's Burgers voice actors to join us here. We are honestly so honored to have you. Thank you for being here.
Crazy. Wow. That's okay. I'll let them know. I'll let them know how it goes, because they are a judgy, mean, just high maintenance crew, as you can probably guess.
We can tell.
First off, and a very important, incredibly relevant question is, you're from North Carolina.
Yes.
How accurate are the accents on this season of White Lotus?
Hyper, no. Tsunami. Buddhism, no.
Oh, that's a good question. They are pretty good. I mean, especially because the father is British. I'm always like, whoa. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's pretty good. Parker Posey has always done a good Southern accent. She kind of like she's done that in Christopher Guest stuff. I kind of noticed the kids don't even try. Like, occasionally they'll do it, but it seems like it's, they're not even trying.
Yeah.
I mean, Parker Posey, I think, does it for a little bit more comedic effect and stuff, but you will encounter people who have that kind of long, drawn out vowels and softening at the end of the word and stuff, so it's pretty good.
I'm here for it. I'm a Texas gal, so
oh yeah
I feel right at home.
Yeah, totally.
Now, What would Rudy think of White Lotus?
Oh, he would be completely confused as to why anybody would be watching it. I mean, actually, okay, the first episode would be terrifying because it starts with, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it, there's a gunshot and stuff. He'd be a little thrown off, but then he would just be like, is this an ad for a vacation place? I don't understand what I'm watching here.
He's too innocent for this world.
Yeah. I mean, any kid would be like, try watching any HBO show with a kid who's like 10 or younger. There's like, why are we doing this?
You know what's funny is that his dad would be a great character on that show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Sylvester would be desperate.
Yeah.
So desperate. He would probably bond with the guy who runs the German guy who runs or Austrian guy who runs helps run the place.
Yeah,
they would be buddies. Yeah. Hot topic, White Lotus.
Yeah,
Zeitgeist.
We thought this big Bob's Burgers podcast would come and swing in what the fans want to hear about.
White Lotus.
Totally. You want to create those opportunities for crossover episodes with other podcasts and stuff. So just tell me how many other shows you want to mention in this podcast, and we'll just tick them off.
You want to do Severance next?
Severance, yeah. We can do whatever. Fallout. We'll do some Fallout stuff. Oh, yeah, it'd be great.
Okay,
yeah.
That sounds good to me. Okay, so I said we'd get you out here quick, but it's gonna be
it's gonna be a long one.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a really long one.
3 or 4 days might.
Yeah, totally.
Check. Skylar and I were just talking before you popped on here that we are so fascinated with you as an artist because you have roots in photography, music, so many different directions your career could have gone. How did you end up in acting?
I think the directions was I went in the music direction, and then that didn't go. I mean, that started when I was in college, and it was kind of like, oh, this would be fun, and then we got signed by a local label, which is very, in North Carolina, especially around that time, it's just like you start up a label and then you kind of do some shows and stuff. So it I never thought of it as like this is my career, but for 20 something year old me, it sort of like was a point. I was like, oh, maybe I'm doing this, and then I think I stuck around with it a little bit too long. But at the same time, during college, I was getting into photography, and my father, who I didn't meet him until I was 17, they separated and she remarried. So, but he was a photographer, and so he gave me all this equipment, and then I just kind of found out that I was really into it. So I did that for a long time, and that's when I ended up in New York, and I met Rob Corddry, and we were roommates, and then he said, you should be doing funny things, and that's kind of what I wanted to do the whole time, because in second grade, I have a speech that's framed just about a future comedian, and it was about how I wanted to be like a comic actor and stuff. So
You're kidding.
No, so I went like around my elbow, over down my thigh, to get back to whatever that saying is. I went around my body to get back to the the point I wanted to.
How you said I stayed in music too long. How do you know when it's time to let go of something?
Oh wow. Well, it was just, especially as a performer, we weren't getting any new opportunities to record new stuff. And we were feeling very small town. We were just feeling like we were in just hanging around Chapel Hill and Greensboro and stuff and playing the same places. So that's just that kind of thing of like, well, this is not sort of like, it's not challenging me in bigger venues or bigger opportunities. And I just was ready to kind of move on. Our guitarist did not want to move on, but the drummer and I were like, yeah, I think we're done. But that's something I'm fascinated by too. It's like I do think I actually wrote a movie about it. That one of the themes is sort of like when your dream becomes sort of like a nightmare, or when the pursuit of something it starts to lose the joy that propels you, and it becomes more of just like a drudgery. It was starting to sort of feel that way a little bit. Yeah.
And so does Rudy? I'm not trying to make like a big jump here. Rudy just gives me so much joy. Does he give you joy?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Because he's equal parts he's like innocent and sweet and fragile. And then I see this in kids. I saw this in my daughter and stuff when she was probably I think he's 8, like 8-ish. But like between like 9 and 10, they start to kind of they test out personalities for themselves, and they test out sort of will and different emotions come out. And sometimes it's sort of like, it's like a toddler having a chainsaw. Sometimes the emotions, they don't know how overstated they are in them, or how, if they try to do it in kind of an adult way, it comes out funny. And I think he has a lot of that opportunity. You know what I mean? There's
a Rudy episode. I think it's Midday Run. And I don't know if it was an animation accident or on purpose, but Rudy is really brave in that episode. He's like kind of standing up as a hall monitor, and he's wearing different colored shorts. He's wearing green shorts, and
for the whole episode.
The whole episode, and Max and I joke he got out of bed that day and he was like. This is the day I'm doing it. I'm doing
that's
green
really
shorts.
Funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny. God, I totally missed that. That's amazing.
So I have a theory.
Okay.
That Bob's Burgers fans either love the Belchers because they see their own family in them, or they see a family they wish they could belong to. Do you fall into either of those camps?
I don't think I do. So I just destroyed your theory. Well, it's like I'm trying to think in terms of I definitely didn't grow up in that type of family. I have one sister, and then my mom remarried when I was little, and then I had 2 older siblings who were kind of crazy. So maybe in that regard, I definitely had some. I had older kids, but they were older kids. They were in their 20s. But I do think in terms of because I can only position it with younger me. I have the family I have now, and I love my family as it is. But I think the younger version of me probably would have enjoyed having another sibling to kind of like to create some worlds with, you know.
Yes.
Because they do that a lot. They kind of head out into the world and cause mischief and stuff.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's Bob Belcher. I feel embarrassed talking about this because I mention it every podcast, but I lost my dad when I was really young. So seeing these kids get to have two parents who accept them is just like really moving to me.
I do think they play a lot with the idea of like what a family can be, and they don't solidify them as just like this is how they always are. Like they give them a lot of fallibility and mistakes, and you know, if you watch the full run of it, because my daughter is sort of like, it's gotten a little too heartwarming. She's like, I want them to bicker a little bit more. I want them to, you know, and they definitely are in this place now where it's just like, we're a family with family emphasis and stuff, but it used to be a little more chaotic, it felt like.
Yes.
But I think that is probably the growth process of a family. But I also think it's the result of the writers growing up together, because they've had the same writers. Those writers have gotten married and had kids, and they have sort of learned what it is to be a parent, you know, and I think that's just that comes into it. And as the older you get and the older you become as a parent, you get softy. You get softer and softer, you know.
And how old is your daughter?
She will be 18 next month. And then she's going to go to college. I don't want her to, but I do.
10, 15 more years, she's going to come back around to these Bob's Burgers episodes and feel the heartwarmingness and be like, oh, yeah, okay, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah. And it'll still be on the air at that point. Please.
It will.
We're hoping to.
Yeah. What is she into?
She wants to be like a director, like a film or TV director.
Amazing.
Which is both great and terrifying to me, because it is a really hard business pre all the strikes and all the AI and all the chaos and stuff. So I'm just like, are you sure about that?
I have to say, I love following your Instagram,
cool.
your photography, dogs. But one of the most moving things I find about it is your tributes to your mom.
Oh, thanks.
There's so much love when you write about her.
Yeah. And
I'm curious, what did she instill in you to be someone who was so open to acting and putting yourself out there and going for it?
That's an interesting question. She just was always emphasizing, she's like, just do whatever you want to do, or whoever you want to be, just do that. Like, no matter what, it's going to be awesome. And I, you know, honestly, I'll express that, like, the man she married, who I grew up with as my father, and I loved him, there was a little tension between us. So it kind of, I think there's a lot of refuge in my relationship with her, and the messaging she gave me, and the kind of unconditional, just like, you know, it's okay. So yeah, I think that's got to be some component of it. But it's interesting because I do credit my friend group with being probably an equal part in my like artistic and sort of like identity development, because we really encourage each other, and we're very like excited to kind of be like my mom taught at a private school, and I went to that private school for free. So I was, and talking about White Lotus, it was very much that ilk of Southern money, you know what I mean? So my friends and I were kind of like deemed the artsy weirdos and stuff, which is honestly we're not. We just took art classes and didn't wear duck head belts and khakis and, you know, boat shoes and button downs, Oxfords. Yeah, but I definitely, and I'm still friends with all of them from high school. So
really,
yeah. And it's interesting. My friend Bo Webb is a cinematographer, and he was one of the cameramen on some of the seasons of Veep, like just totally unrelated to me. He just like, guess what show I'm going to do? I was like, oh my God. So we got to do some stuff together, which was cool.
You are fantastic on Veep, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. It's a good show.
Yeah, and I mean, I was, joking at the beginning with your intro, but you do have so much range if you go watch you on Veep and that character who is so great and so unlikable. And then you go to someone like Rudy, who is just like the most lovable little guy on the planet.
No, that's cool. Thanks.
You mentioned that the writers on this show kind of growing up together, because it's been on for so long now.
Yeah.
And the voice actors as well. You come from such like a lush improv background with UCB and learning under people like Amy Poehler and Matt Walsh. And one thing I've noticed over the years is that these people are always orbiting around each other's projects. Once you were cast on Bob's Burgers, were you already so familiar with everyone? Did it already feel like you were coming into a family? Or
I didn't know. I had met Lauren through my friend Scott Armstrong, who's a scriptwriter, screenwriter, and we met at a party, and he was like, "Oh, Lauren's got this cartoon that's coming up," and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And then our kids were in swim class together, and I didn't try to sell myself to him or anything. I didn't think anything of it. And then I had worked with Dan Mintz, weirdly, as a writer on this awards show thing. And during that, he went off and he's like, I have to go to this voiceover audition. I'll be right back. And he came back. And that was what he just popped out to go do that. So I don't know. I really don't know how I ended up there. But I do think it was sort of like, because I just got an offer. It's like, hey, do you want to come in and do this voice of this kid? And I guess the weird thing to me is like, I don't feel like I had any material out there or done any stage stuff that sort of like would give somebody the idea that I could do Rudy. But I think at that time it did feel like I know Tall John, I'd done a Sarah Silverman pilot and stuff. So I think it's little bits, like to answer your question in a long way, I think it's a little bit of like small connections. And I mean, a big part of, it is that thing of like who but a big part of it is like, who are you willing to hang out with? Who do you trust as being like a cool person to kind of, to see on a repeated basis. So it's that kind of thing. So when you kind of got asked to do this role, did you know he was going to be recurring, or was it just supposed to be a one-off? No idea. Had no inkling. But I did know, like, when I did the table read, not to toot my own horn, but I killed. Like, it was like, people were like, holy. And so I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I really wanted to do well because I wasn't doing any. I had done like one voiceover gig before that and stuff. And it's interesting. I'm my own worst critic, but I'll go back. If you watch the very first one, like his voice kind of has gone like it's deeper, and then it's gotten really high, and then sometimes it's a little erratic.
Are you kidding? This is great. I've never done anything like this. My mom barely let me go on this field trip.
Especially during pandemic, I was like, I could not get it. Like everything
really?
Was just, yeah, because I like literally over there in the corner behind that blanket. That's where I record stuff, and so it was just like at home, feeling crazy. Not recording with the other actors. You're just doing lines, which is a different way of doing it than we're used to. Because that's one of the things I love is we all go in there together and we're all playing together and stuff, like acting. We're all, as opposed to just giving like line readings and stuff.
Tell me if I'm reading this correctly, but I feel like Rudy and Louise and you and Kristen Shaw have a very great chemistry. Do you ever improv together? Is there a spark when you're working together?
Well, yeah, that's the thing I think I miss the most during pandemic was you even if you're just, because we wouldn't do it with video and stuff, it's all audio, so you can't sort of like look over and see the other person is giggling or that they're scrunching their face up and indicating the scene's going to go kind of like that they're doing a different reading of it and stuff. So yeah, and Kristen's always down for like kind of keeping the scene going. John Benjamin too, like they love when it just like kind of throw in a curveball and stuff. And I think the good thing about that too is it just keeps you invested and on your toes, and that you have a genuine reaction that is, sort of like any conversation. Like, you don't know what you're going to say next, even if you have an idea as it's rolling out and stuff. So it keeps it in that space.
Yes. Like, fresh and alive.
Yeah, totally. I love that Loren allows that. I think sometimes he'll allow it just for his own entertainment, too.
As the audience, we can tell, especially between Larry Murphy and H. John Benjamin, when they are improvising, and it's such a gift for us.
Yeah, totally.
It really is. So are you aware of the intense shipping, as the kids would say, of Louise and Rudy when they grow up?
Yeah, I've had a range of memes and images sent of them sort of like in all sorts of animation styles, and like Harlequin romance covers and, like rom-com mock-up posters and stuff. It's pretty great.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you hope that for Rudy, that they get together in their teen years?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think, I think that they should explore other relationships, kind of get out there, see what else is going on. Because he does have a thing for Chloe Barbash, like that's his.
I mean, I got feelings about that.
Yeah, I know. I think that's like, he probably likes he likes the bad girl aspect of that.
He's also, without jumping ahead into this episode, very excited that a card has touched Tina's bra. So he does have to do some...
I know.
Our Burobu cards! And they've got bra on them.
He needs to feel things out a little bit.
Yeah, I know. That was a surprise. It was cool watching this one because, like I was saying before, it's like this one feels like it's in that space where they had a lot of like offshoot stuff, and it wasn't as on point with like the point of view jumped around a little bit, but it all felt like it was still the character. And now I feel like they stay very true to sort of like, if the show is about, I don't know, about like having a crush on somebody, they just stay in that zone pretty tightly.
Yeah. There's a lot of threads in this episode that really organically come together at the end. Speaking of which, there are so many amazing Rudy episodes. But tell us what episode you chose as your favorite and what you like about it. What draws you to it.
I think so. I will say that I'm a little embarrassed that I chose this one because I was like, I didn't want to choose one that I was in. I forgot I was in this one. And I will tell you why. Like the reason it came to mind is like, it's such a small thing, but it's like, I loved it. I love it so much. But the episode is Mission Insluggable. Am I saying that correctly? Season 8, episode 20. And should I unpack why I chose it? Or are we getting into that?
We're going to get so into it. Why don't you give us one word why you love it?
Sympathetic.
Okay. I'm excited then. I'm excited. All right. For those who need a little refresher, I'm just going to read a quick synopsis and then we'll jump into our test.
I love a synopsis.
I will not say the name right. Max and I were debating over how to say this for a while.
We were going back and forth and it was bad.
All right. Mission Impos-slug-ble.
That's it. Mission Impos-slug-ble. What did I say? Mission Insluggable?
I like sluggable. Like, that works for me. Anyway.
Yeah.
In a desperate attempt to complete her Burobu collection, Louise holds an illicit trading session where she trades Rudy a counterfeit slug. But when Tina rats on the fourth graders, all their cards are confiscated. Determined to retrieve them, Louise, along with Rudy and her siblings, crash the teacher's Martini Tuesday. Meanwhile, Bob makes amends with his eulogy for Harry, the pickle guy.
That's good. I forgot about the pickle guy, too. That was another. I was like, oh, right. I love the pickle guy.
Yeah, it's a good B story. We should just jump right into this top tier test. So what the top tier test is, we're going to toss 12 questions out. If it passes 10, it's a top tier episode. If it gets 9, we can argue it into top tier. If it gets less, it's unfortunately not. And we will all cry about it because we love the show so much. We don't want anything to not pass.
Yeah.
But we've created this awful world for us here. So we're stuck with it.
This MC Escher painting.
Yeah. When something doesn't pass, it's going to destroy us. So the first question is, does the episode make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside?
Yes. And I think it makes me feel warm and fuzzy, not in like a aw way, but in a, like I said, a sympathetic way. Like I feel very like aw, like I kind of feel bad for you way.
For who in particular? Like what moments?
It all hinges on Mr. Frann. Like it breaks my heart that he's left out. That he's like, I totally know, like that. It's just that thing, like that adult version of a kid experience kills me. And they're so mean. They're so mean about it. Like there's this like almost alcoholic meanness to this crew that I didn't know existed, you know. But yeah, that part just was like, oh no, oh buddy, I feel so bad for you. And then he's out dancing in the street trying to get their attention, and he's being used, and then he goes off to get froyo by himself. Like, yeah,
it's almost sadder, like you said, the mean girl child experience, but for an adult it's almost like sadder that way.
Yeah, because at that point you're kind of locked in. Like it's so hard to make friends as an adult, and the older you get, the more intractable people are in their acceptance, like of you, like if you fit into the mold or not. If you don't, you're not going to. And you know, he constantly is stepping in it, and just like, you know, he is kind of like the least liked character, it feels like, but there's something wonderful about it. Like Dave Herman is brilliant in his desperate kind of like panicky need to kind of like to get a win, you know.
It's so good.
Yeah.
His performance, particularly when he's doing the dance. I've never noticed this before, but he goes, pew, pew, pew.
Yeah.
I couldn't ask for another. Pew, 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 pew. I couldn't ask for another. Pew, pew, pew.
And that's it. And the other thing is, like, I have a real bias because I remember I watched him do that record for that, and it was really funny.
So is that like something that's not in the script? It just like came out of him as a performer?
Yeah. He just did it.
Love.
Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you say that sympathetic is the word, because yeah, you're right. He's hard to like on a regular basis, that character, but you really do feel for him. And the irony is that this group of teachers would love this performance of Groove is in the Heart if they were all just like listening to it with their martinis. Like, how can you not get up and dance to that?
Yeah, it really is. Someone just needs to say, calm down, man. You just need to calm down.
Yes.
But I feel like his MO is the equivalent of like trying to get a football that just keep kicking it or grabbing it, and he's just like always sort of like stumbling forward. But yeah, he's so good at it.
I have to say, you are probably the first guest who's ever felt endeared to Mr. Frann. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and
Aww.
I don't know. It makes me happy to have the conversation because, like, I see him differently now too.
Yeah, because I mean, just the fact he's always like, oh, you know, he gives these little like vocalized kind of like moments of anxiety, or you know, he's uncomfortable with himself, and he's supposed to give counsel to people on how to handle the world, you know, and he's like the least capable of doing that. I love that.
I think that is the especially as you get older and you step into yourself as an adult, I think one of the most heartbreaking things is being an adult and feeling those moments when you feel uncomfortable with yourself. They're really hard.
Yeah, and they don't stop. Like that's the one of the things that that kind of screwed me up for a long time. But then I was like, oh, okay. I think she was basically saying like, give yourself some compassion and grace. But my mom used to say, I was like, well, when do you know you're an adult, or like when does it get easier? And she's like, you know what? You never figure it out. You never figure it out. And to young teenage me, I was like, what? No, that's terrifying to hear. But she just kind of phrased it the wrong way. But it was kind of one of those parenting moments where I had a big fear that I was going to say something weird to my daughter, that I was going to, you know, she's going to take a weird left turn into neuroses and stuff. Because that was one thing that I latched onto, because I needed somebody to say, like, and it's like, well, you don't exactly figure it out. You have to adjust. You have to kind of roll with it and stuff. But the way she said it, I was like, oh my God. So,
yeah, it was like, it won't get better, actually.
Yeah.
But it does get better. You just never figure it out.
Yeah. But I do think it's important to know, like, it's okay to continue to have, because, you know, I mean, as much as, like, it's a little bit of an overused kind of, like, terminology is true. It's like you are always going to have that little version of yourself, the little kid version of yourself. And there are going to be a lot of times that you have to, like, be very gentle and not scold that little version, or, you know, calm it down, kind of let it know it's safe and stuff, because that to me is where, like, fear and worry and anxiety is. It's the younger version of yourself that can't make sense of, like, what's happening.
I don't know.
Are you tearing up?
I am tearing up a little bit.
Aww.
I don't know. I think about Max. We're married. BT Dub.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he gave us a cameo for our wedding.
That's
right.
Max and Skylar, congratulations. You're about to embark on the greatest journey of your life.
I see that harshness with Max so much, and I know he sees it with me. And I don't know. It's just, we tell each other that all the time, but to hear it from someone wiser is wonderful.
Yeah, well, I think everyone is wise, and they just have moments, and then sometimes there's, like, wisdom amnesia that happens, and it's just like the hard drive gets, like, wiped, and you're just, like, back to sort of like, what's happening?
Yep. So Max, what's the question? Did it give you the feels?
I was gonna say no initially, but the Fron thing sells me on it now that I sit with that, and also just like Tina taking the lesson she learned earlier in the episode and coming through and taking the blame, even though this was Louise's plan to come get the cards back, and kind of protecting her little sister made me have those feels. So what about you, Skylar?
Yeah, I also think it's really nice when Louise owns up to when she's done something and, like, if you hurt Rudy, like, that's not cool with me. So I liked that she made amends with him. And I feel like this episode in season 8 was kind of before Louise is kind of constantly doing that, and we're expecting that she comes around at the end. So
yeah, I think going back to what my daughter sort of is, that expectation is baked in now, and she's a little like, she's like, I know third act, there's going to be like a moment where they have reflection and they kind of move on and they say something funny at the end of the reflection, but it's still very sincere. She's like, I want him to, like, not do that as much. I was like, all right, I'll tell him.
Tell him it's Rudy.
So, but I also wonder, like, without asking too much about their process, I wonder how much is not a mandate, but I think, you know, you do have to please the money lenders, you know, and I think a lot of times they're like, if it's not broke, you know, don't fix it, just keep doing it.
Yep.
Which is interesting with that they did that episode with the divorce episode for Rudy, because that was all in on that stuff, which I think was fantastic. But my daughter is like, I don't know.
Wait.
Tough critic. Tough.
I mean, she should be. She's your daughter.
Yeah.
But I mean, it makes sense. You didn't want to choose a Rudy episode, but I was like, Max, what episode did Brian choose? And I was shocked when you didn't choose the amazing Rudy. I
didn't want to do one that was about. That one is largely about my experience of recording that. If I had done it, I think it would have been about that.
Yes.
And then separate from that, it would have been because I do think, and I've told them, all of them, I was like, I think this is fantastic. Y'all did just like a really, like, okay, let's do a pretty darn sincere, like a very special Bob's Burgers episode.
It was phenomenal. And I can feel it. I can feel what your daughter says, that it can get a little too earnest, but that
also, was. I think as maybe as a child of divorce, she didn't want to see her dad doing a performance about a child of divorce. Maybe, I don't know. That
I was gonna say, this was not too earnest for me. It made me ache, like literally ache. There's this shot. I don't know if it's at the mall. I don't know where it is, but Rudy is on the outside looking into this Belcher family, and it gut punched me because that was always my experience. And talk about, I mean, we're talking about Fran, but talk about feeling like you don't fit in anywhere. Maybe you don't even fit in with your dad and his girlfriend. And I honestly thought it was a brilliant episode, beautifully done, and your performance was so phenomenal.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I think it's hard to like also bring such humanity to an animated character when you're just lending your voice, and it's just so interesting to hear that. It's such an art. It really is, and I don't think it gets enough credit.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was kind of hoping they would get the Emmy.
It should have.
I know.
I'm sorry, not sorry. It should have.
We went to that, and then I think when we lost, we're like, all right,
let's go get In and Out.
Yeah, totally.
Next question is, does this episode bypass rewatchability fatigue? Obviously, meaning can you watch it over and over and not get tired of it?
It does. And the other thing that I did in rewatching and rediscovered is like I love that this has like 4 storylines going on, and it's interesting. In my memory of this episode, I thought the pickle guy was a whole A story for another episode. And then I thought this whole thing with Fran in my memory was like a whole thing about Fran being on the outside, So it really had like the other ones like had enough story to them that you're like, ooh, cool. I'm glad we're back with this one. Now we're going to go back over that one. So for me, it was, that part was very delightful. And the other thing, this is another one of those ones I was like, oh, I kind of like how dark this was. But that imagined the retelling that Tina did where Miss LeBon's is like slapping her.
You don't understand. Ms. LeBon's made me talk.
Where are they? Where are your study buddies? Where are they?
That was really funny, and I was like, wow, this is really intense. Like this adult is slapping her in her mind's eye, And then Billy Eichner is also great. I love how he's just like so over it and pissy.
He so started Martini Tuesday.
Yeah, totally.
Billy Eichner himself or Mr. Ambrose? Because I could see both going either way. Yeah.
I love that line. He goes,
wow, I've never been back here. It's just more books.
I think yes for this too. And something we've learned doing this podcast in particular is we watch the episode like back to back. We watched this one yesterday, and then we watched it this morning before we hopped on with you. And we're just like learning how rewatchable all these episodes are. And this one, it was like, it's probably even more enjoyable a second or third time around.
I think a lot of them are that way because you miss a lot. The first time because you're processing the story, and then there'll be like a joke and stuff, and then you forget there are all these weird little asides and stuff. They're baked in there.
There's this great Rudy moment that I missed. We both missed it, Max and I, the first time. Let me get my notes.
Notes.
They're in the library, and Andy and Ollie, what did they say, Max? And it's not the right word, and Rudy goes, no.
No way. We'll get detention and the cars will be confiscated.
Yeah, they'll get constipated.
No.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The physical comedy in this episode was... Well, I'll talk about that when we talk about the jokes later on. We can move on.
Yeah, well, that's the next question, so that's perfect. The next question is, how is the JPM, which is the jokes per minute?
I mean, I think it's pretty solid. This time I was kind of noticing Gene a lot of times is just given he's given a conjugation. Like there'll be something said in the scene, and you'll kind of conjugate it into a weird little his interpretation joke, you know what I mean? And it's kind of all over the place, and it's really interesting to me how much he sort of how much they play with the idea of like that he's kind of genderless in his own self-view, you know what I mean? He's always kind of like, I'm kind of a lady, I'm kind of a guy, he's all over the map. He's like is equal parts Gene, and then I think he loves his mom so much that he kind of like, I want to be a lady too.
Yes, and like
I love it.
Louise reinforces that. She's like, I can't lose another sister, Gene.
Yeah.
I'm a sexy Switzerland.
And also his ability to pull just like the best pop culture references from a certain era, because obviously it's written by writers from that era, but like something like where he says they're asking questions about the Barobu cards, but then he just has a question and says,
Did John Lithgow play John Larroquette in a movie, or was that just a dream?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I thought you were only doing Barobu questions.
I know, but that's interesting.
Yeah, that one blew me out. I was like, that is a good joke.
It's so funny. And then Louise being interested in that is just like an extra joke on top of it. It's like you said, like they just pile them on, and you have to rewatch them to catch them all.
I was rewatching it with my daughter, and I laughed really hard. She's like, "Why is that funny?" I was like, "It is. Just trust me. It's very funny. If you knew who they were and you don't, it's very funny."
Do you agree, Skylar? Jokes per minute's high?
Yeah, I mean, I say this every time, but when we do a rewatch and I'm still catching jokes that I didn't catch the first time, I always say yes. But then an added layer to this episode is the physical comedy. I have all these notes, but not my joke notes. But okay, Miss LeBon's her bosom pushing that Tupperware,
pushing the tray over. Yeah, that was great.
And then there's a Tina moment where Louise is out. She's gonna go break into a teacher's house, and Tina's holding the phone, and the phone she runs after her sister, and the phone cord pulls her back.
Yeah.
Her hanging on the hose.
The hose. Yep.
Just talking to her teacher. There's just a lot. There's all the jokes, but then there's tons of physicality in this episode.
Yeah, there was a good Rudy thing where he slid down, where he was like kind of overwhelmed at the prospect of like how illegal the things were going to be. And I will say this, I miss Rudy having an inhaler. If you notice, he hasn't had an inhaler for a long time. And I wonder if they got some sort of like, people are like, feels like y'all are being a little mean about having asthma. So
it's Rudy. It's not mean.
I know, but really, like he hasn't whipped one out and puffed it in a while.
Official petition right here.
Yeah. Right
clip
back.
It to a social clip, Max.
Because I think that I mean, my daughter has asthma. My partner has asthma. They don't take offense.
I would think maybe they'd feel seen, but
yeah, totally. Yeah.
I
don't know.
Maybe after this they'll get it back.
Yeah, totally. This is gonna.
Our 500 views, Max, are gonna do it.
If one Fox exec is one of the viewers, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just like picture like a cigar chomping, balding white man sitting and watching our podcast.
And he's got a cigar like stuffed into an inhaler, and he's like puffing away. He's like, "Hey, I like that actually."
Okay, this next question I'm so excited for. Is each character doing what that character does best?
Interesting. Because that question has to evolve a little bit. Like the characters, what they do best has kind of changed over time a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think at this point in the series, Louise is definitely doing what she does best, which is sort of like having a goal and chasing it no matter what, and then dragging everyone along. Rudy is reluctant and a participant. Tina is sort of trying to be the authoritative older sister and kind of crumbling a little bit. Jean, lots of, like I said, conjugated joke ideas. What about Linda? Linda's a little light in this one.
You're right. She usually is kind of like she'd be getting involved too much, and she kind of takes a step back in this one.
Yeah, she's sort of like I thought she would kind of handle the pickle eulogy a little bit more, but I thought it was funny when she's like,
Hi, hello, we're divorced.
That was a laugh out loud moment.
Yeah, totally.
What I like about this question for this episode is it ends up being like a side character showcase. Like there so many of these side characters who have like earned spots on this show and the series have so much to do in this episode, and they're all so phenomenal. All of the Wagstaff staff, the students are all in there. We get students from different grades because they're all paired up together in the library. Yeah. Then you get everything that happens at Miss LeBon's, which we talked about with Mr. Fron dancing, but also Mr. Ambrose is so good. Mr. Bronca, so like even more David Herman killing it. He's got such funny lines. There's a moment where he just says hi to Tina because they've established they have this like friendship over the years.
Yeah.
Just like him saying hi to Tina and her responding. So, yeah.
Hi, Mr. Bronca.
Hi, Tina.
Yeah, and also she says something about why she's there, and he just says, "That's inspiring. That's inspiring."
Yeah. Oh, that's so inspiring.
I made it. Well, like I knew I would the whole time.
That's inspiring. That's inspiring.
He also says she's explaining why she's there, and he goes, "What happens next?" It's like,
yeah, totally.
And
It's
you
so
don't
engrossed in the story.
You don't even hear that on the first watch. You don't.
Yeah.
No, you're right, Max. I think I also forgot that the first time you watch this and the first time you're privy to like Martini Tuesday and the inner workings of the teachers, it is just so fun and it's just fantastic.
Yeah, and it's interesting how they don't like Linda. You know, Linda has kind of like they allude to a little bit of like booziness, you know, but they never. They handle sort of like drinking in an interesting way. Like there's one of the best lines is maybe it's from Gene, but somebody says like they're acting so weird, and it's like, are they drunk all the time? Like,
I think it's Gene.
Yeah, because they're seeing them drunk, and then they're like, are they drunk all the time? It seems.
I
mean,
really funny. I think there's a fan theory that Bronca has alcohol in his whatever he's carrying around at school, and I am like, you leave that man alone. Like,
No,
no,
that's not true. So I don't know. For me, to answer that question is like, I think the kids are sort of all on point, and the parents are a little more backseaty.
What do you think, Max?
Yeah, I think it's a yes, just because of, again, like I just think these side characters carry so much in this episode, and they do such a good job of it.
Yeah, and whoever played the lawyer was fantastic.
That was me.
Oh, I was. Remember the lawyer like goes up and
yeah.
He like, it was stipulated in the will that I do this to you.
Oh.
And then I was supposed to say, now we're even. Love you, buddy.
How does something like that work? Like, are you in the booth and like, oh, we need someone to do this, you know, this one-off role, and we got you here? Is there?
They'll let you know at the. Sometimes you'll know at the table read, and then sometimes you'll find out like in the moment that they forgot to assign something. That one I think I'd done at the table read. So.
Oh, interesting. So, okay, this might be too much information, but I've just always wondered, and you don't have to answer specifically for Bob's, but if someone throws you extra lines, an extra role, an extra voice, is your contract changed or?
No, they just book you for the record time. It's not per character. But one thing that sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish that was in the credits. They'll just credit one character, and and so, like, even in the Rudy episode, I'm only credited as Rudy and not Sylvester. And sometimes I wish they could. You were
so good as Sylvester, I have to say. Like,
oh, thanks.
And it was like oddly moving that the same person was voicing Rudy and his dad. It was like this. It was really beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. What is that with the credits? Why?
I don't know. It's probably economy of time, because they do have, as your show has identified, big focus on the end credits. So they just sort of like kind of burn through them, I guess. I don't know.
Well, you're credited in our hearts.
Great. Yes.
Two random people on the internet.
Yeah. If your hearts has an IMDb page and it can affect my star meter.
Yeah.
The most important rating of a person is your star meter.
I'm going to wear one of those written and directed by Quentin Tarantino shirts, but it's going to say Brian Huskey as lawyer in season 8, episode 10.
Love it.
Okay. Next question is, was the family together enough?
What is that? That's enough. That's a very open-ended
really,
one.
Whatever is in your heart, really. If you,
I mean, yeah, Yeah, the thing I like about it is like it's that and it's weird. This hit me just from you saying this, but I like that they were having separate experiences. Very much, it was just like, oh, the kids are coming in, they're doing this. We got the eulogy, So yes, they were together enough.
Yeah, I typically whenever if there's at least one like kitchen table scene, I think they were together enough. Right. Because they're just like those conversations are some of the best in the show.
Yeah.
So
you got to see Matthew Cathy.
Yeah, and in that scene, there's a moment. It's so subtle, but Tina's doing her Matthew Cathy impression to Louise, and Louise just has some like, yep.
Yeah.
She's
like tolerating it.
Listen, kid. Sometimes on the streets, stuff doesn't add up.
Yep.
Things can get negative.
Yep.
It's just so perfect, and it actually reminds me of Bob doing those yeps too in other episodes.
Yeah,
so
totally.
She picks it up somewhere.
Yeah, that's really funny.
I love when I can't remember exactly what Tina says, but Matthew Cathy, and she's like,
Dad, would you be more comfortable telling
Matthew Cathy? Because, man, I've seen some stuff.
Thank you, Cathy, but no.
He's like, says it really nicely, but like, please leave me alone. And I too, I really like the siblings are so together here. And that's like iconic latchkey kids, Bob's Burgers. But I really like when Linda and Bob get to go be partners somewhere else.
And say they're divorced.
Yeah. Exactly.
In the process.
Exactly.
Okay, the next question is, do the end credits give you that serotonin surge?
Oh, yeah. I love these. Like, they just from the kind of the initial, like, Louise popping up, like, kind of like as a frozen frame thing, and then throwing the card and like the battle stuff. It was like Pokemon referencing, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one gave me a little serotonin.
I'm not a Pokemoner, even though I think it's my generation. But when we covered these end credits on our main feed podcast, Max pulled up, what is it, the Pokemon movie credits? And they
I think that's just the Pokemon theme song from
the visuals are like so similar, the cadence, the movement, it's really cool.
The work they put into the end credits. I mean, obviously we have that whole podcast, and it's just always amazing, and these were no exception. They really did an incredible job on them. And one of the slugs is Sluggy Stardust. It's like an extra joke in the end credits that you don't even need, but it just makes it even more special.
Totally.
Yeah, the forgive me, I like literally cannot sing, but the like boo, like the chorus of the song is so good.
Yeah, I know. It's always amazing to me that they do the credits and then they always have a song to go with it. It's like it's really impressive.
It is.
Yeah, and we're actually just going to have you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, because obviously Skylar and I rated them on the podcast. We're going to put those in here, but this is your chance to do that.
Okay, you convinced me. I'm coming up a little bit. I'm doing
9.75?
9.75. I refuse to do 10 though.
Oh, that one I'm gonna give a 9, just because I like watching it again. I was like, oh, cool. And I think the first time it didn't. It's like another one of those things I forgot about. And I was like, oh, cool. That's right.
And I can't remember what we rated them, but I feel like we said the same exact thing. Like the first time we're like, oh, that's fine. And then when we like dug deeper into them, it was a lot higher.
Yeah. It's cool.
Okay, next question is the quintessential weird factor of Bob's Burgers present?
To me, the Lithgow John Larroquette joke was like just so weird and so sort of like random and should not be part of that kid's brain. That ranks it high for me. But I'm gonna say this one didn't feel that weird. This one felt sort of like, I was thinking about it as like, it felt like I could see this on like a multicam or something, or just or another like like a single camera, sort of like that they would have these scenarios a little bit, but they wouldn't be as they couldn't go as far with it as they did in this episode.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think kind of, especially after now that we've done so many of these my favorite episodes, this one doesn't feel as weird as a lot of the Bob's episodes can get. So I'm going to say no to that too.
But for me, I like this one in that it was like, now when I watch with my daughter, knowing that she's such a critic, you know, when there's one that's like, oh, that was cool because it was just about like the kids going down to the pier and having some weird adventure. It felt plausible, but we get really invested in it, you know, which is interesting to me just in terms of television of the, like sometimes the more, like you were sort of saying, like, do you see your family or do you, you know, not see your family in this family? Like the potential that you could have that experience is always something you can sort of latch onto a little bit.
I think that's what makes shows rewatchable. You know, like everyone watches this over and over and over again as they fall asleep, like people do with The Office or maybe Gilmore Girls. And there's an everydayness and everymanness quality to it.
Yeah.
All right, next question is, would you recommend this specific episode to a friend who has never seen the show?
Let's see. Because I'm thinking you're kind of dumped into the world. You don't know anything about the characters. Is there enough that kind of tells you who they are pretty quickly? I think so, except for I do think Bob and Linda, you don't get the full range of Bob and Linda.
What do you think, Skylar? Would you recommend this one to...
I would. Yeah.
I think I'm going to be the odd man out here and say, like, I think it's, like I said, these characters, they've kind of like earned this screen time and what you know about them. And I feel like it doesn't hit as well if you aren't as familiar with them.
Are you talking about like the teachers, Jocelyn?
Yeah, like yes, like they carry so much of this episode. It's so, you know, side character heavy that I think you really need that. But if 2-1, it's going to get a pass. So
I think, I mean, for me, I think this one is just like it's funny enough to somebody like even if they didn't understand, they would be like, oh yeah, I'd watch more of that. It might pique their interest. Is my sort of take on it.
Yeah, it wouldn't turn them off.
Right. But like if the first episode you showed was the Amazing Rudy, people are like, oh, is it always like that?
Either they love it or they're like, nah.
Yeah, they're like, oh, have you seen this new drama? This new cartoon?
By people, do you mean your daughter?
Yes, yeah. The one person in America who didn't like it.
Okay, next, we only have a few more questions, and these go pretty quick. So, next one is, will this episode cure your seasonal depression?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I love it.
Yeah, because it's just dumb.
Yeah, I think you can't, like, watch those pew, 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 pews and not just be like, feel so much better.
Yeah, totally.
Next question is, if you took the humor away, does the plot hold its own?
Oh, if you took the humor away. So basically, if you just had this as a drama?
Yeah.
Just the way your daughter loves it, straight, no laughs.
Just earnest.
Yeah.
I mean, if I saw these as like sort of like the log lines for each storyline, I would go for it, you know? But it would be really interesting to see how you would pull off the memorial with the pickle guy and not, because that's inherently funny. So
a pickle in the face.
Yeah.
Can't not be funny. Well, maybe, I don't know.
It's so funny. I could actually kind of see that as like a serious bit with, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a show that's a little more serious and maybe just has like a comedic edge to it, but it's not supposed to be funny. I don't know. It feels like
maybe
it could work.
6 feet under or something.
Yeah.
It's like sort of like the retelling of like how someone passed or something.
Yes.
Yeah, it might work. And I do think like it's classic storytelling. They have something taken away from them that they then have to get back
right
somehow. You know, the name of the episode is based on Mission Impossible.
A drama.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Okay, next question is, was a song from the episode stuck in your head afterwards?
I mean, I'll be honest, it didn't stick in my head. I'm sorry.
We
honest.
like honesty.
It's a great song, but it didn't stick in my head.
It stuck in my head.
I'm going to say it was stuck briefly, but it didn't like, I wasn't like humming it or anything later, but I don't know if this counts because it's not a Bob song, but Groovin' is in the Heart has been stuck in my head.
I know,
since,
right?
And I cannot get it out of my head. So
yeah,
I don't know if I can count that here, but I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, okay, that's true. But I'm gonna stick my first answer because I think of it like a Bob song, not just a pop song or something. So, I'm going to be a purist about the question.
That's fair. I'm going to put a no for that one.
Hold on,
and
Max.
the final question. Yeah.
If it's stuck in your head, do you also have the pew 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 pews?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. That's mostly what's stuck in my head right now.
That's the only part that's stuck in your head.
And Brian, I promise you, like next week, you're gonna just be like hanging out, and you're just gonna be like pew 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 pew. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, just standing in line at the bank, mumbling to myself. Pew, 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 pew.
It's okay.
Okay. Last question is: does at least part of the episode take place in the restaurant?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, it's the pickle stuff. It's sort of debriefing with the kids as to what's the betrayal with, which is great. That thing of Louise looking through the window and like dragging her fingers across the glass.
Her like growling.
Yeah, totally. Just like, and then Bob is like,
I'm so glad I'm not Dana.
Yeah, me too.
It's really funny.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this, and we only have 2 no's, which means it got 10 out of 12, which means that Mission Impos-slug-ble, whatever, you know,
Impos-slug-ble.
It is a top-tier Bob's Burgers episode, which is exciting. Yes, you didn't ruin anyone's lives.
Oh, good.
We can all breathe easy.
Because isn't the deal, if it's not top tier, it gets taken out of circulation, and that means less residuals, which affects families, it affects writers, it affects a lot of people.
Those are the rules. We already established, we already established that the cigar chomping executive is watching this, and he's like, he's got the yes or no button in front of him that he likes to push, you know. Yeah, while he's petting his evil cat.
We made it.
Yeah, we did it. This was exciting. Brian, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We got that executive watching right now, so if you have anything you'd like to promote, if you want to tell him where to follow you, this is the time to do it.
Oh, yeah. If you haven't been paying attention, Fox Executive, you can on Instagram at the Brian Huskey. Not on X anymore because that guy can go straight to hell. What else? Look for me at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater. I usually try to do Ask Cat once or twice a month. And then we have a show that hopefully will get a regular slot called Soundtrack. But right now it's kind of like random. I think that's all I got right now. I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to have to come out to one of those soon. We've been meaning to, and we struggle to get out of the house sometimes.
I get it.
But we are going to get to one very soon. Again, thank you for joining us. This has been delightful.
Delightful on this end too. Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
And for those of you watching, if you want more of Skylar and I, as we mentioned a few times on this podcast, we have a whole other podcast called Bob's Credits, where we go episode by episode and talk about the end credits mostly. Skylar, anything else do you want to say before we get out of here?
I'm just gonna say, stay saucy.
Stay saucy.
I love it.